on to our one public hearing item tonight, which is the housing element.
Okay, good evening, Chairperson Moss and Planning Commissioners. Again, my name is Kim Obstfeld. I'm a consultant. I work for PMC. I've been working with the city on the housing element update since January now, and we're in the home stretch. We're almost done here. I'm here tonight to present the housing element to you for final review and ask that you go ahead and recommend the housing element that the housing element be adopted by the Planning Commission, or excuse me, by the City Council in November. So just a quick overview. I will run back through very briefly the housing element update process, how we got here and sort of where we're at. I want to give you an overview of key revisions to the housing element since the last time you saw the document, talk through the HCD review process, give you a brief overview of environmental review for the document, and then talk through next steps and our recommendation. So the update process, again, we started with a very recent housing element that was last updated in 2010. We updated that draft to include more current information. We reformatted the draft, updated the analysis, and then revised where we needed to based on the current housing climate. Throughout that process, we conducted community outreach, which included a series of study sessions, a workshop, a roundtable discussion among housing and service providers, an online survey, and additional phone calls wherever needed to supplement that information. We then prepared a complete draft housing element and brought it around for your review, the Housing Committee's review, and City Council's review. With your permission, we went ahead and submitted that draft to HCD for their initial review, compliance review. We have received a letter back from HCD confirming that compliance, and then we're here, of course, for adoption hearings, and we'll need to go ahead and resubmit the adopted housing element to HCD for final review and certification. Just a quick overview on the schedule. Again, we started work on this in January and conducted outreach and worked on updating the element in the winter and early spring. By May, we had a public review draft housing element, so the document has been available in its various forms on the city's website for public consumption all along. We've been sending out consistently emails to folks on our stakeholder list just to let them know where we are in the process. We did meetings in June and July and did our HCD review in the summer, and we're here, of course, tonight to discuss the housing element, and we'll take it to City Council for adoption in November. That puts us on track to submit, probably just need a week or so after the City Council hearing to make any revisions and final tweaks to the housing element and resubmit to HCD for their review and certification, which can take up to 90 days. But I'm finding this round especially that as soon as we submit it, it's 25, sometimes 30 days for that final compliance review, especially if there are no changes to the document. So a quick overview of revisions since the last time you saw the draft in June. We did go ahead and incorporate the program recommendations from the Planning Commission. Those included revisions to 3 programs, those related to one regarding architectural style, one regarding stormwater intrusion prevention, and another regarding design guidelines for multifamily that related to sort of open space and how we were setting up. It was sorry, I can actually look at that one. It was identifying opportunities to amend standards to promote high quality open space and community interactions. We also made changes to reflect the actions taken by the Planning Commission and Council with regard to the affordable housing program. It used to be the Affordable Housing Set-Aside Ordinance, and that was changed in July to the Affordable Housing Program. So we did update our analysis, and then there were just references to that ordinance throughout the document that we need to complete and make sure that that was consistent with the current ordinance. The fee schedule was also updated to the city's master fee schedule, which became effective July 1, 2014. That was in the appendix and also in related text. We did make quite a few corrections here and there just to fix minor mistakes and make sure the document was formatted properly. And the last thing we did was based on a recommendation, not a mandate by any means, but an idea from HCD to beef up the preservation quantified objective. And I do want to apologize to you. The draft that you had in your packet, the bound draft, did not reflect this change. So you've received an extra piece of paper that was on your desks when you got here this evening that actually shows the change. There's one paragraph that changed within this analysis, and then the preservation column in table 6.1 changed to reflect a sort of beefier preservation objective. We had initially just included for our preservation objective the 6 units that were at risk of potentially converting from below market rate to market rate during the planning period. Based on ideas from HCD, we beefed that up to include the preservation of all 721 of our existing below market rate units, which is a very viable objective. We have staff that's working every day to make sure that those BMRs stay BMRs, making sure that resales are conducted properly, conducting monitoring at rental properties, that sort of thing. So certainly something that we can stay on top of. We also added an objective within that to preserve 8 moderate income units based on the city's efforts in the predatory lending and foreclosure prevention, and 8 above moderate income units through the continued implementation of the residential preservation ordinance. HCD, we had an excellent review with HCD. As I mentioned at the last time I was here, we were eligible for streamlined review based on the city's compliance with current housing element law. Our review time went down from 60 days, or what could have been 60 days, to 36 days all told. Our monitoring call, or our review call with our assigned reviewer at HCD, lasted all of 5 minutes. They had one question for us just for clarification purposes and had absolutely no changes in order to achieve compliance with state law. Just to pat you on the back and pat staff on the back, that's a testament to the work that you've done with regard to your general plan update, your zoning revisions, all the good work you've done to get to this place is very much being noticed by HCD. I got a couple of complimentary emails from folks there. They're wanting to use the city as an example on a number of fronts, and you know, cheers to you. You've done an excellent job. So no changes from the state. That was huge. They did have the one suggestion, which came after we'd already received our letter of conditional compliance, suggesting that we beef up that quantified objective for preservation. They do want to go ahead and use the city's housing element as an example for streamlined review and post it to HCD's website. Environmental review, we prepared an addendum to the General Plan EIR, which was certified in October 2009. Because the analysis in the General Plan EIR already addressed the footprint analysis of any potential new development that the housing element was relying on, so basically all of the development we were pointing to meet our RHNA and beyond had already been contemplated under the analysis in the General Plan EIR, so there was no need to do further environmental work on that. And with that, we would, like I said, like to take the document to City Council for their review and consideration and adoption on November 18th. And we'd like to recommend that you go ahead and adopt a resolution to recommend that the City Council adopt the housing element and approve it for submittal to HCD for final review and certification. And that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of staff? I have one question. Can you explain again the preservation of the 8 above moderate units? Because those aren't BMR units, right?
Right. So HCD picked up specifically on the city's residential preservation ordinance and asked us to look at what might be a reasonable objective to address the city's efforts on that front. So we chatted with planning staff to see how that comes into effect, and one current example came to light where there's an instance where a property owner has, there are 2 units or maybe 3 units on one site, and he'd like to consider demolishing those units and creating one single-family property. Under the rental preservation or residential residential preservation ordinance, he needs to maintain all 3 of those units, and we don't want to have any loss of residential units, essentially. So because they're not related to below market rate units, these are probably market rate units that would be affected or not affected based on the implementation of that ordinance. We just assumed, because it's not a very frequent occurrence, it probably 1 unit per year, and it wouldn't be a unit that's set aside specifically as below market rate. It certainly could be just by pure fact of, having someone having occupied the unit for a long time, or, whatever the rent is, or whatever the ownership situation is on the property. It could be affordable to lower incomes, but wouldn't be specifically a BMR unit.
Thanks.
Sure.
I just have a comment. I'd like to really thank the consultant, the staff, and the people all the way back to the general plan, that we've done good work at this time. And I wasn't on the planning commission at that time, but I think this is a testament showing that our work ahead of the curve is really paying off. And if the state is paying attention to the work that the city has done, I think everyone involved, the consultants, the staff, and everyone else, just really needs to be congratulated and thanked. It's a good job.
Any other questions? All right, I think with that, we'll open the public hearing. So if there's anyone here who would wish to speak on this item, please come forward to the podium. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll bring this back for discussion. Any comments on the housing element?
I move approval. We've been over this so many times.
And I'd second Commissioner Keller's comments. I think that this was, staff's done a really wonderful job, and all's well, so it's good.
Yeah,
I would second.
Is that a second to the motion?
Yeah.
And before we vote, I just want to echo those comments and thank Kim and the rest of the staff. I think you've done a really good job. And it's, obviously HCD thinks so as well, so that's very encouraging.
Ready? All right. Commissioner Cardoza?
Aye.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Aye.
Commissioner Gunkel? Aye. Commissioner Keller?
Aye.
Commissioner Coomerly?
Aye.
Vice Chair Tan?
Aye.
Chair Moss?
Aye.
7 ayes. The resolution passes. We will forward your recommendation to the City Council. And I would also like to thank Kim and our staff for an outstanding job.
Yes, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
All right, so with that, we will